Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider.
Hello, and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baranowski-Schneider. Today, I'm joined by Otis McGregor, an executive coach who's an expert on leadership, life transitions, and life management. He also co-hosts a podcast, the Cam Otis Show, with his youngest son, Camden. There's lots going on, so I'm going to leave it to him to tell you more. So welcome, Otis, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Patty, it's great to be here, and thanks for having me. I'm a veteran. I spent 25 years in the Army as a Green Beret. Retired as a lieutenant colonel. Sometimes I'll tell people I started off as a tank driver, which I did, driving a tank that was 5 years older than me, and then made it all the way to Well, it was kind of funny. It was well before all the electronics and smooth riding, and it was quite an experience. A lot of physical labor involved in keeping that tank up and running, and caressing her, being nice to her. So
yes, must be nice of the day.
That's right. That's very ironic, isn't it? Yeah, I retired from the Army in 2009, went into the business world, worked for several companies as a business development, program management, doing everything from data management, coding strategy, product manager for that, to building life support camps in Equatorial Africa, to police training in Afghanistan, all these sort of things. But none of them were fulfilling me, and I had to do a shift in my head. It was actually a moment of clarity I had about 6 years ago, sitting here in the home office feeling sorry for myself. Because all my buddies, from my perception, all my buddies had these great jobs that they loved. They were having fun, making a lot of money, all that sort of stuff. And here I was, I'd worked for 5 different companies. I was currently in my 5th company in those 7 years, plus all these side gigs I do. And I was miserable. I was miserable again. And as I sat here in my home office here, wondering what was wrong with me, and started reflecting on my life since leaving the Army. And I realized there are only 2 things that have been consistent in my life. My family, still very consider myself fortunate to be married my beautiful Texas bride from my days at A&M, and boys high school rugby. So, very ironic because I'm a Texas boy, so all I did was play football growing up. Well, our youngest son decided he wanted to play rugby, and my wife and I did the tag team thing. She'd pick him up in school, drop him off at practice. I'd swing by at practice and pick him up on the way home from work. I started leaving work a little bit earlier out of the truck. Became great friends with the coach, who's a Kiwi, and he said, "Well, why don't you help out?" And I said, "I don't know a thing about this game." So I became an assistant coach, and then turned around again, and he asked me to take over as head coach. And that summer, I was sitting here feeling sorry for myself. I started to say, well, why was I spending so much time in this sport that I had never played, didn't know anything about, but now all of a sudden it become this passion project for me. And as I looked at it, I said, well, there's 3 pieces to it. The game of rugby, awesome game of strategy, effort, teamwork, love it. The boys was part number 2. Because it was a club sport, head coach, our house was the clubhouse. My wife and I ended up with 35 extra sons, which was a lot of fun. But what I realized, it was being their coach was what was really fueling me. It was teaching, mentoring, guiding them, challenging them, holding them accountable, not just teaching them to be great rugby players, but to be great young men going off into the world and into society. And when I realized that, that's when I said, there's got to be something I can do with that and become and really use it as a business. because I also knew that at that point in my life that I wasn't going to pursue a professional rugby coaching career. Yeah. So I discovered this thing because I didn't know about it. Discovered business coaching and executive leadership coaching, and that's what I've been doing ever since. I kicked off the
That's an awesome
podcast
story.
about 4 years ago to support it. And yeah, it gives me the opportunity to help people be successful, help people understand what their purpose is, because I didn't have one. For so many years. Let me rephrase that. We've all got one. I just didn't know what mine was. Right. So it wasn't that I didn't have it. I just didn't know what it was because I never bothered looking for it. All I was doing was just going through the motions of life and working, doing the 9 to 5. I was Dolly Parton's theme song, 9 to 5, except I was really more like 7 to 6 sort of thing. The 50 hours a week was a short week. It was usually that 60, 70 hours a week that I was working for no reason other than just a hard worker. And there was nothing to it. Hard worker collecting a paycheck. And when I had that moment of clarity and started to understand and define what my purpose is in life, and that's when I started to live my life and started to enjoy my life. I am fulfilled because I pursue my purpose every day. My purpose is to create a legacy of leaders. And that's what I do in a number of different ways. And I love that opportunity. And it's the fuel that gets me up and keeps me going.
Well, that's an awesome story. But it is true. Like we all, you were taught, go to school, work hard, get a job, pay bills, and that's it. And so many people go through, I did the same thing. I was working well, and since I'm 12 years old, I've never not worked. I couldn't even tell you what unemployment was. I've never been on it. Just work, and working 18-hour days, blah, blah, blah. Then I start my own business. And I don't know if that was better or worse because now I'm working even more hours every day. And, but at the end of the day, when you look back, it's like, okay, but what do you get out of it? You get a paycheck. But, so it is finding that something that, gives you a purpose to wake up every day and say, I can't wait to go do this. It's a lot of people don't have that. So that's awesome. And you helping people find that is even better.
Yeah. Well, and that's why you hear about these people who are wealthy, who are famous, and how they're depressed and they commit suicide and they drug overdose. And I truly believe, I don't know any of them personally, so I'm not accusing any of them.
Right.
But I truly believe the reason for that, the reason they have those problems is because they don't know their purpose. They've never taken the time. They're doing the same thing that you and I were doing, just grinding it out. Their paycheck's a little bit bigger. So they're living in bigger houses and they got a bunch of people around them that say, yes, 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 you're the greatest. And they never pause to truly understand who they are, why they're here, what's the purpose, what's the meaning of life? Why are you here? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I guess telling us about Introduction to Leadership Philosophy. You've had a diverse career ranging from being a Green Beret to coaching high-performing business owners. So can you walk us through how your understanding and philosophy of leadership has evolved over the years?
It's more of as I grew up, I learned how to handle things. I've had, and I still do, a lot of great mentors in my life, people that worked for me that taught me lessons, people I worked for that taught me lessons, both in the military and business, and even now that I learn from all the time. The philosophy, I would say, didn't change that much, but became more refined. The basics of it, the being decisive, leading by example, having trust with your team, those sort of things, having high integrity and belief, being able to show how to do things to others, demonstrating and leading by example that if I'm telling you to do it, I've been there, I've done it, or I'm willing to do it. Right. And that's important. I've also learned one of the probably the biggest changes in my life over as I've become more mature and a little bit more gray is the understanding and acceptance and patience. Because I can remember, and I remember a couple of specific things when I was younger and a lieutenant blowing up at a guy that worked for me. I mean, almost temper tantrum sort of thing. You're fired. You know, the old what was the Donald Trump show years ago before he was president?
Yeah, you're fired.
You're fired.
Yeah.
You know, that was a very calm way compared to how I did it. Let's just put it that way. And realizing how bad that is, how disrespectful. I don't care how bad somebody screwed up, how disrespectful that is to another human being. So learning how to do that, learning how to calm down, learning how to see things differently, accept things, and not be as judgmental, because there's as many ways to do things as there are humans on the planet. So if he didn't do it right, maybe there's the other piece. Maybe he didn't do it right because I didn't tell him how I wanted it done, what was required, which is a responsibility for the leaders.
Right. That's awesome. And it is good. That was one thing, like even with my jobs, I started from the ground up, start as a receptionist, work my way up the corporate ladder. Slowly but surely I got there. And, I saw some people right out of college and, meanwhile I'm working my way up and they're starting all the way up here. But they didn't know, like I remember where back in the day, not aging myself, but before internet, before all that stuff, if we had a, group presentation, you had to physically do them. And I knew how long it would take, what was involved, because I had done it, where everybody else was like, we need that in 20 minutes. And I'm like, you're looking at least 3 hours. Like, until you've got your hands dirty and really understood, you don't have compassion for what people are going through because you don't know. And I think that is important. You've been there, you can, even if you have to take a step back, like I like managers when they go through companies and they'll just watch what everybody's doing. And everybody's like, oh, they're watching me. Maybe they're not here to pick out who's the bad guy. Maybe they want to see exactly what you're doing so they have a better understanding, so that's really cool.
Well, and one of my mantras is, if a hole needs to be dug, you better be willing to pick up the shovel.
Yeah. Too many people aren't.
Yeah, there's a great book about the All Blacks rugby team. It's a New Zealand rugby team, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the book now, but it's pretty famous. And this is the greatest rugby program in the world. This consistently top notch from this little bitty nation of New Zealand that probably has less people than we have in New York City, and they consistently win. And they consistently win because of the core values and the character, the personality of the organization. And one of their key tenets is sweep the sheds. Mm-hmm. If the shed needs to be, and that's locker room, it's Kiwi for locker room sheds. If the locker room needs to be cleaned up, then you clean it up. We're here. We're using it. It's not, these are these guys in New Zealand are on a pedestal probably higher than NFL players are here in the US. And their attitude, their culture is get the broom and clean up. Wow. The best in the world at what they do.
Nice and humble.
And that's the way I grew up in the military. That's the way I grew up in my house. Right. Dad taught me that as a Boy Scout and leading Boy Scouts, where I first started being in charge of people. Hey, the hole needs to be dug. Grab a shovel. Yeah. Garage needs to be swept. Get a broom. It's that's how you lead, because you're not leader and team. You're team. You got to work together. So
that's something more and more people need to understand. That's awesome. I guess speaking about your Green Beret experience, how has your experience as a Green Beret influence the way you approach leadership and life management? And are there any principles that you carry over?
Well, I tell you, one of the biggest things was trusting the guys, and even now trusting people to perform. Because I was working with the best of the best. I was talking about the All Blacks. The guys that I was surrounded with were First off, you're triple volunteer is what we call it, because you volunteer for the Army, you volunteer for airborne school, and you volunteer to go Green Beret. Well, that doesn't mean that you raise your hand 3 times and you're in.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of tests, and the tests get harder and harder. And even the test after you get qualified and you don your Green Beret and you get to the team, there's people that don't make it when they get to the team because they're not part of the team. They don't have the right attitude, right? They come in arrogant. I'm God's gift to the Green Berets. I'm God's gift to this team. That was part of it. And I kind of drifted off, but to come back to your question, it is the quality of the people I worked with was so high. First off, I could just let them do their job. So I had to trust them right from the get-go, trust them to do their job. But I also had to learn that, listen back, let them tell me, hey, have you thought about this? What if we did it this way, sir? I knew I was the one in charge. They knew I was the one in charge. They knew I had the final say.
Right.
But I needed to listen to the experts because they were the experts.
Right.
Here's my favorite kind of metaphor description of what it was like to work in the Green Berets. Monday morning, we have an operations meeting. And I say, hey guys, I need 3 bags of blue powder by Friday, right? I need 3 bags. Who's got it? My engineer, because the engineer was also the logistics engineer, raises his hand and says, hey, I got it, sir. Roger, okay. Wednesday afternoon, he comes to me without me asking. Wednesday afternoon, he comes to me and says, hey, sir, I got 2. I got 2 bags. I've got a line on 1, but I'm not, it's a little tough, but I've got a line on that 3rd one, and I'll let you know. Friday morning, whoop, there's 4 of them. There's 4 bags. And that's the kind of performance that happened all the time, no matter what we were doing. It was that level. If I needed 3, I got 4.
Right.
If we needed to go, and build something, do something, it was always higher performance than you expected. The value, we talk about in business, adding value to our clients and our customers, right? That's what these guys, they were treating me like I was their customer because they would perform at such a high level.
Right.
Now, here's the inverse of that. Here's the problem with that. If you grow up around those kind of people, you develop a habit of trusting everybody, thinking everybody's going to perform like that.
Right.
Right. So, hey, Patty, I need you to do this. And you go, and Friday afternoon, I go, hey, did you get that done? And you're like, oh, you wanted it this Friday. That's that's the way the rest of the world operates. And I will admit that has been my biggest weakness since I left that organization. Is I was so used to working with people that were such high performers, that had such dedication to their job and their mission, that I never had. Truthfully, I said, I need 3, I got 4, whatever it was.
Right.
And you always got it early too. It was always better, and it was early. And if it wasn't going to happen, they'd always tell you, hey, I'm having some problems. Maybe can you make a phone call for me? It was that kind of a culture and attitude, and it scarred me.
Yeah.
I've stumbled into a couple of things in the business world because I expect that same sort of performance, and I get it most of the time because of how I select my team and the people I work with.
Right.
But sometimes you don't, when people just don't, they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. That's how you should expect people to perform. So everybody listening on here right now, you come work for me, make sure you're giving me 4 when I ask for 3, and give it to me. Don't wait till Friday, give it to me Thursday. Right?
No, but it is true. Like I'm a hard worker. I go above and beyond. I've always done that. And you assume everybody else is going to do the same. And it's, especially nowadays in the world we live in, where everybody has a voice, this and that, we're in a tricky world now. Like, people don't go above and beyond. I shouldn't say people, most people don't go above and beyond. And then if you say something, that's it. It's a whole big fiasco. You don't appreciate anything I do, blah, blah. It's not that at all. You're paid to do a job and you're only doing a quarter. It is hard, but people, I guess if they see that you value what they're doing, they want to do more because they want to prove themselves to you. And and that speaks for itself, but it's just a crazy world we're living in now. And people have to really start understanding, you have a voice, but you don't have to say anything. Actions speak louder than words. Show me that you are, you value your job, you're passionate about what you do, and that I don't have to babysit you because you got this,
Well, there's a good point there, though. Maybe that person is not in the right position. Maybe they're in that just going through the motions because they don't know what to look for, back to purpose, don't know what their purpose is, don't know what they should be doing to fulfill themselves in life. And it's unfortunate, but that could be it. I'm not making excuses for people who are slack performers. There was about 6-7 months ago this phrase of quiet quitting, and then there was quiet firing or whatever it was, which was the opposite of it, and I'm just like, if somebody doesn't want to be there, then hey, I have no problem. I'll help you. I'll help you. I'll review your resume. I'll write a letter of recommendation. I would much rather you be someplace where you're happy, dedicated, and enjoying what you do, instead of sucking oxygen and dragging things down where, and frankly, as a business owner, that person is stealing money from you. I mean, truthfully, right? If I hired you to do 12 and you muck around and you make up excuses to only do 6, okay, well, what do we need to do? What are you missing, right? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't feeling good. My eye itched. I had a cat that walked through my yard last night. I don't. It was a little tough. I'll try to do better tomorrow. And you see that performance, that person either willfully or unintentionally. I mean, right down bottom line, they're stealing from you. Because you're paying them to do a job and they're not doing the job. That's a harsh way of putting it, but it's true. So you as a leader, your job as a leader is to train the person. Well, first off, you tell them what's expected of them. What do I expect you to do? In order for you to be successful, I expect you to do A, B, C, D. And I expect you to do those 4 things in this manner at this level of performance. That's number 1. Number 2 is I need to train you how to do A, B, C, D. And in that training, I set you up for success. And then number 3, I need to make sure you have all the gear and tools that you need in order to perform A, B, C, D. That's my job as the leader. I do all those things and you still fail to perform, then it's time to find something else. I'll find somebody else that I can put in that job that will perform. I guarantee.
Well said. Now, the generational aspect. You co-host your podcast, The Cam Otis Show, with your youngest son, Camden. So how do generational differences between you and your son influence the show? And what have you learned from each other?
Well, first off, I'll say it's usually me that fumbles on the words, so I'm happy.
Is it Friday yet?
That's right. It's really great because, obviously I've got a few more years of experience. I got a lot of military experience and business experience. He's got entrepreneur and rugby experience. So we come at things similarly, but there's still that difference that he sees things. We used to always joke about this. His soul hasn't been crushed by the reality of the world. And there's some truth to that, right? I mean, not that you get old and you get cynical, but in the sense of, well, I've been around the block. I've seen a thing or two, like that insurance commercial, right? I've seen a thing. So I know, the probability of that working is not real high, but he sees it and he says, "Hey, I could still do this." And I'm like, "Okay, if you think so, go ahead, give it a shot." Thing. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, because I'm looking back from all my experiences and saying, well, I did that, saw somebody that did that, 15 years ago and it didn't work out. So it's probably not going to work out now. Whereas he's looking ahead and going, hey, I read an article in Forbes magazine the other day that said something about blah, blah, blah. And I think we could do that. I'm like, all right,
Give it a shot. Yeah.
So I think that is a really interesting aspect that all of us who are at a later point in life should look back at, and how can you partner with somebody younger than you? There's a difference. I've got another business partner that's about 15 years younger than me, and his life is still going up like this. Not that my life's going down, but I mean, truthfully, what's the average lifespan and all that sort of stuff. You start doing some math, and you're like, well, I am kind of over that part of the hump, right? I mean, we ain't getting out of here alive. Just saying.
No.
I know nobody likes to talk about that, but that's the reality of it. But you start, this is pretty cool. I can do this a little bit, tweak. And he's like, oh man, we can do this and we can sell it here and we can build it up like this. We can, create a factory over here. And I'm like, you're running it.
Yeah, exactly.
because he's at a different point in life, right? He's on that upslope, it's there's that old saying that, your teens and your 20s is for figuring it out, and your 30s and your 40s is for making money, and your 50s and 60s is for enjoying it. There's some saying like that, but there's a lot of truth to that when you start to look and think about, where am I at in life?
Right.
And that's just it's the reality of it. How much do I want to work 16 hours a day and be on the road all the time? Right. When I was a captain in Green Berets, man, I'd raise my hand for anything. We need somebody up. Okay. Wouldn't even let them finish it. Hey, we'll go. We'll go.
Different time.
Yeah. I mean, because that was that attitude of what's next? How can we challenge ourselves next? What's the next thing we can build? Right. What's the next, activity we can do to make ourselves better and build on that?
Right.
Get older, it's like back to those two attitudes, right? It's like, yeah, I could run 5 miles, but then I'd probably end up in a hospital because I'd be out and my knee would fall apart and all those sort of things. You start to look at things a little bit differently, right? And it's I think there's a uniqueness to that, and I think more people. It's one thing to have somebody that's in your same age bracket and running, right, but there's a lot to be gained from a gap in the age in business and working together. Right. It's the guy over here sees things a lot differently than I do because he's at a different point in life. 6-year-old daughter, and he's about this. I've got a 1-year-old grandson, right? I mean, so.
No, it is unique. I mean, I love that too, where, back in the day, nobody ever asked your opinion. No one cared. It's like, I'm the boss, you do as I say, and that's it. But now, I notice that now, and maybe I am getting older too, but you see the generation, they have a different outlook on things. They view things completely different. And sometimes it's more interesting than, okay, well, why do you, I'm always that person, why do you think that? Or what would you think? And explain it to me, because, I don't want to be that person to do as I say. No. What is your thought? Because maybe what you're going to say, I'm like, okay, I didn't even think about that. And now, especially even with marketing and all that, with this, it's completely different how it used to be. So sometimes you need to get the feedback from the younger generation, because that's not how I was, I was taught how to do it, or what I've done through all the years. And if it's changing, explain to me what you're thinking and how this, so it is good. You need that feedback. So mixing the two different generations is generations is pretty good. And it's good. The podcast having two different takes on it, because you obviously are someone here where people can look up to the experience and look up to like a mentor, tell me what your experience is and what you did and why you did it. And then let the younger generation say, okay, we took a little bit of that and now this is how we do it, so it is kind of unique.
Yeah. And it's fun. And it's truthfully, in order to do that, you have to be willing to learn, to listen, and not go, you don't know anything, stupid kid, get off my lawn. If that's your attitude, then that's not the right, first off, that's a pretty crappy attitude. But you shouldn't be partnering with somebody if you're going to look at them that way and go, what the hell do you know?
Yeah. I mean, the world is always evolving. Yeah. You have to keep up. Like I always admired like Walt Disney. They constantly keep changing. There's a new movie out, a new buzz thing going on. They got a new ride. Everything they're doing is to keep up with the generations, keep up with the changes. And I'm like, whoever does their marketing, I give them 2 thumbs up because they are evolving and keeping up. They might not like it, but it's just the world we live in. And if you're not open to listen and change, not saying you have to agree with every single thing, but hear it out and, see what you can and can't mix in with what you're doing. And, the world is evolving and it's changing every day. If we don't keep up with it, you're going to be left behind.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, I guess tell us about life transitions. You're an expert in life transitions. So can you share some common pitfalls people face during major life transitions, such as maybe a career shift or personal changes, and how to navigate them successfully?
I'd say the biggest thing is people are afraid. They're afraid afraid to make a choice in a direction to go. They're afraid to leave where they are now because it's comfortable. But they'll never, if they have that, this isn't right, doesn't feel right. Like I talked about me with my jobs, the companies that I work for, they're all great companies. I mean, these are all, I still recommend these companies for anybody to work with them and be employed with them. But it wasn't the right fit for me.
Right.
And if I had stayed there, well, first off, I wouldn't be who I am today, doing what I'm doing today, helping others understand and get clarity in their purpose.
Right.
But the biggest holdup that I find with people, because I work with a lot of people in that transition space, is I don't know what I want to do. I know this isn't it, but I don't know what I want to do. Sometimes, well, first off, taking the things you don't want to do off the table, that's a good start.
Right.
Second, start narrowing it down, right? I mean, if you got, let's say there's 5 things that you got and you're like, I want to do these. I don't know which of these 5 things I want to do. Okay. That's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Pick one, right? Pick one and then start to go towards it. Start to, take some classes. Like if it's like a completely different career field, like, I don't know, you want to be a doctor or whatever. Well, go take some classes, night classes at the local community college on biology or anatomy or maybe become an EMT or whatever and just see, test it. Because which would you rather do? Stay where you are and complain and be miserable, or take a chance that you're walking in the right direction and then find out, nope, that's not it. Okay, well then let me adjust over here. Is that it? Nope, that's not it. Man, I'm just shocked at the number of people who are satisfied being dissatisfied.
Yeah.
All they're doing is looking for attention and saying, woe is me, look at me, I'm sad, I don't have a good job, I'm not happy, can't wait till Friday night. Come on, man. Come on. Do something different. Yeah. You want to change your life, change your life.
It's almost like they want somebody to tell them what to do.
That's what most people want. Just tell me what to do. Tell me what I should do. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Right.
I'm going to give you some tools, some processes to think about what to do and help you shape it and understand what you're thinking about and maybe find some things that are interesting and maybe guide you a little bit so that okay, well, I'm going to go this direction over here now. I'm not going to tell you that's what you should do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there. Good grief. You ever been in one of those groups where somebody asks a question, man, I'm having this problem with this. And then some dude, usually a dude, but it's usually a dude, comes flying in off the ropes. Well, you got to do this, this, and this. You should take this step and do that. And then you should take that action. And I'm just like, dude, you know nothing.
Yeah.
You ain't in his shoes.
That's true.
But you know what? Because people are so afraid of taking responsibility for their own life.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to take some dude from the top rope who's never walked a mile in your shoes, knows nothing about your family, the job situation you're in, your background. They've only met you a couple of times at a networking event, and they're going to come flying in like Superman and rescue you.
Good luck.
You're going to feel better about yourself because you're going to blame that dude for the crappy situation you're in, but you ain't going to get any better.
Mm-hmm.
Good grief, man. Come on.
No, it's true. I mean, so many people I know are miserable about everything, but they're, you could give them advice, but they don't want to do the work. They don't want to, they just want this magic pill to just, my life's going to be great. It doesn't work that way. Everything's, a learning experience. Everything is, learning who you are, learning what you like, you don't like. I mean, it's all the process. And so many people are just, I guess, asleep at the wheel. Yeah. Now, but
and they're just willing to accept it. Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
If that's what you want, then that's what you want,
Yeah. Then
don't call me
else.
up and ask me to fix it for you.
Yeah.
Because I can't. You got to fix it.
Now, about your hat with a tribe. So building a tribe. Your platform's called Tribe and Purpose. So what's the significance of having a tribe, and how does it contribute to individual and collective success?
Well, we don't get anywhere by ourselves. I don't care who you are. You may hear Elon Musk. You hear the name Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. You hear all the names, right?
Right.
But not a one of them got to where they are without the people around them, without a tribe supporting them.
Right.
Both business and life, and those intertwine together. Right. You got to be part of something. Nobody is successful alone.
Right.
I mean, not to mention the fact that everybody should be giving back to humanity in some form or fashion, helping others do better in some form or fashion as part of their purpose. But you cannot be successful by yourself. You think Jeff Bezos spent a lot of time sitting at a computer coding that website and setting it up, putting books up on the shelf and putting them into a box to get it going? No, he had a team. I mean, there's all kinds of, not as many books written about him as there is about Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. That was the other one I was thinking of. How those guys interact and how they sold their stuff. They became the front man. I mean, somebody's got to be in charge, right? So, back to the tribe. The tribe is that group that works together. They have common values. Their values are aligned and a common purpose to help everybody in the tribe succeed. And that's the power of it. And that's one of the things, that's one of the things that we do at Tribe and Purpose. Some people call it a mastermind. A mastermind is a tribe. It's a small group of people that come together on a recurring basis. And small for me means 12 people, 10 people or less, between 5 and 10, ideal situation. And they work together. They share ideas. They share the burden. They share the load. And they work together to help each other succeed. I like to put it as I am a good member of the tribe is 51% happier when you succeed than when they succeed themselves.
It's true though. Yeah.
That's a good member. I'm willing to stop what I'm doing. Man, I'm almost there. I've got the cure for cancer right here. But you need help, Patty? All right. I'm coming over there to help you out. I mean, that's the kind of attitude you got to have.
Yeah.
Right.
Teamwork.
I mean, that's the success of a tribe. Yeah. And it's also, they're there to pick you up when it all goes to shit.
Right.
I mean, there's no other way of putting it. The tribe is there. They circle back around and say, all right, what do you need help with? All right, I'm coming over. I can help you with this. I know this person that does this. We can come over and do that. Same thing. That they're there to celebrate when you have wins, and they're there to pick you up when it all falls apart.
I know that's one unique thing with any type of like group that you're working with, because so many people, like I grew up in the corporate world, and you had your hierarchy of whatever. Nobody cared. Like I remember when I first started out, I was a single mom. It was almost all 90% women. I was the only one with kids. Nobody cared. What I went through, even just to get to work, was a full-time job. At the time I dropped the kids, blah blah blah, but nobody cared. Like nobody asked me. It was never like, oh, how was your morning? Like I'd be soaking wet from the rain. I grew up in Manhattan, in the city. It was just a mess. And there was no compassion. There was no try. There was no, like, nobody cared. Everybody was stepping on everybody to get ahead. And so it's a shame. But more and more, like when you hear stories like that, I'm like, well, it's like, oh, I love that. It's like I've never really experienced that, but it makes such a huge difference, because you motivate each other. You all want to succeed because you're a whole. Like I always tell clients, your success is my success. I'm not just here to take money from you. You succeed, and that's great for me. I'm on the agency side, but I work with everybody. I'm part of your team, and I always had that mentality to do that. But hopefully more and more companies are doing that now, but it's not something that I experienced, in my growing up in the corporate world. But it is really important, because that would make so much difference in any employee's life, to know that I'm part of a team and we're here for each other. And if I'm struggling and I'm just not figuring it out, you're not just telling me there's the door, leave. You're helping me. Okay, how could we figure this out together? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that feeling is part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The baseline, food and shelter,
Right.
love. And then the next couple will get a little fuzzy. I always can't quite remember which ones they are, but being part of something
Right.
is one of them, and feeling a contribution, feeling like I am a value added to an organization. I'm pretty sure that's the very top one of the triangle. And that's where it all comes together, right? So now I am part of something. I feel like I'm part of an organization that cares about me.
Right.
And I'm not just along for the ride. I'm not in the back of the pickup.
Right.
I'm up there contributing as part of the organization. I am a recognized value added member of the organization, of that tribe. And that helps bring it tighter and tighter and tighter together.
And like you said, it's coming from you as a leader, not just the coworkers that are on the bottom. It's everybody, because if the leader can sit here and pat you on the back and say, you did awesome, and I'm so glad we're in this together, I that would have just been like, oh my God, that just made my week, where if someone was just, they don't even know your name, like you see that in big corporations, they don't even know your name. You're just a number of a paycheck, and that's it. I mean, it's hard to give your all to something when you don't even feel included in it,
Yeah, it is. Because even if you feel like you took that job and you said, this is going to be it for me. This is a cool thing for me. And it turns out to have that kind of a culture, then you're probably not going to be happy. You're going to turn into the person that's just going through the motions. What's the minimum I've got to do to continue to collect my paycheck, not get laid off or fired?
Right.
But if you, as the leader, recognize that person and tell that person that they're a value-added contributor to the organization, and you appreciate what they're doing, man, it goes so far. So far. People get wrapped around the axle in these big corporations, right? And the CEO. Okay, the CEO can't do that. He's not going to go around to all 150, 200,000 people at Lockheed Martin, or name a Forbes 100 sort of company that's huge. The CEO can't, but he can establish the culture so that it is a trickle down, so that the managers, the directors, the people in that chain have that kind of an attitude and create that culture within the organization. Yes, the likelihood that, you know, the CEO of Ford is going to go down to the, you know, the factory line and know Joe's name, and Joe is the guy who takes the right wheel assembly and puts it on the F-150. It's the 17th step in the process. He's not going to, he may get down there and shake Joe's hand, right? But he's so far disconnected. But if he or she, I don't mean to just, I'm just, right? If he is that guy at his level, and maybe one below, maybe even two below, and he knows those people and he gives that gratitude to those people and recognizes that team, then they're going to push it down.
Right.
And they're going to follow the same culture. It's established from the top down. So yeah, giant corporation, they're not going to, the CEO is not going to know everybody by name. I've met some pretty high up CEOs or CEOs that are some pretty big organizations that shock me. And sometimes it's like, holy crap, how the heck did you know? You knew my name? There's some people that have that God's gift. But most of us normal people do not. So how do I establish that understanding? And it's again, you know, leaders lead by example, and I set the standard up above and I demonstrate it, and it trickles down throughout my organization.
That's awesome. And I guess tell us some practical tips for our listeners who are aspiring leaders that are going through life transition. Can you share some practical tips that they can implement today to set them on the right path to success?
My most favorite tool, and I'll share this. I should prioritize. Patent?
Prioritize. I know yours that is me.
No, not
prioritize.
IP, intellectual property. Intellectual property, this thing. Trademark it. But it's the ideal day. But the secret to the ideal day is that it's the ideal day 5 years from today. So today we're recording this 27 September. 5 years from today, 27 September, 2028. I wake up in the morning and things just go with the flow. You know, kind of that I'm driving to the office, the lights all turn green as I'm approaching every light, right? I walk in and you know what? That sales request I had sent to a customer comes in, close the deal. That happens. This happens. My wife and I go out to dinner. We have a great time at dinner, really great food. Don't eat too much so that we're miserable, but we just feel great about it. You know, then we go back home, we chill out, and we have a great conversation. I put my head down in the bed and I go, man, what a great day. What a great day. That's the ideal day.
Right.
And what that is, that's your vision for who, what, and where you want to be. What does that look like? Unrestricted, realistic, ideal day. And the reason I say unrestricted, realistic is, you know, let's be realist. You know, I want to ski in the morning and I want to kayak in the Caribbean in the afternoon. Unless you're figuring out a teleporter in 5 years. But maybe skiing, maybe I want to hit, you know, do a couple of runs in the afternoon, or do a couple of runs in the morning on the way into the office or on the way home from the office. Or maybe I want to swing by a river because I'm a fly fisherman and I want to cast my fly into the water for an hour before I go to the office. Right? That's creating the ideal day. Maybe it has to do with the size team. Maybe it's the function of the team. Maybe it's what we're making. Maybe it's where we're living. My run in the morning, even though I don't anymore, but my run in the morning is through this beautiful trail in the woods, you know, and I see the jumping bunny rabbits, and there's a deer and an elk, and you know, and I see all these sort of things. What I'm doing is I'm creating this image in my mind for what right looks like, what I want my future to be. And when you do this and you do it in the gnat's detail, you know, the devil is in the detail in this exercise, meaning If you set your alarm for 5:30, do you wake up to your alarm, then you turn it off, then you get out of bed? Or do you get out of bed, turn off your alarm, or some other form of fashion? Do you go pee? Do you brush your teeth, go outside and have a cigarette? What do you do?
Right.
You drive to work. How far are you driving? What are you listening to while you're driving? Or are you making phone calls? You're doing a podcast, listen to a podcast, talking to people, see all these things. These are the details that we're creating this image in our mind of what right looks like for us, what we want our life to be.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call that image, the red truck syndrome. And the reason I call it the red truck syndrome is this. I never saw a red pickup until the day I decided I wanted to buy a red F-150. And the day I decided I wanted to buy a red F-150, guess what? Every intersection I can come to, there's a red pickup. There's another one. I go to the Walmart. There's 3 of them in the Walmart parking. I go across the street to the Home Depot. There's 5 in the Home Depot parking lot. I'm like, what was there? A sale on red pickups last night? No, they've always been there.
Right.
They've always been there. But I changed what I wanted in my conscious mind. So now my subconscious mind has changed the filters of what my mind sees.
Mm-hmm.
It sees the opportunities that I want to have. It sees the indicators and the things that are going to help me achieve what I want to achieve. Right. That's where the ideal day is such a powerful thing, because I'm creating this image of what I want in 5 years. Mm-hmm. And when I create that image, and I can create a plan to achieve that.
Right.
And now I've implanted these images of things. So if I want to go for a 5-mile run on a dirt through the woods in rolling hills, well, where is that? Well, it ain't in Tucson, Arizona.
Right.
It might be in Maine. It might be, it might be in Tennessee. I don't know. But you see how we start to collect this information. We create this image, and our mind searches for these things, and they start to jump out at us, just like that red pickup does.
Uh-huh.
And that's
like a golden ticket. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and everybody listening to this now, you're going to see red pickup trucks.
Yeah.
They're going to be all over the place. It'll be like flies.
No, but they even say that, but like the whole law of attraction thing, they always tell you put up like a board, like I forget what they call them, where you just picture of what you want your life to be and look at it every day. Yeah.
Vision board.
So I mean, there's truth to all of this, obviously.
And it works. It works. Vision boards is another tool to use. Create your ideal day. I love doing the ideal day because so many people have trouble with this whole visionary
Right.
sort of stuff because it seems so, blah.
Right.
So wishy, sure, wave my hand. I'll be a gazillionaire in 5 years and all that sort of stuff. But if you do the ideal day, the realistic, unrestricted ideal day,
Right.
and you take that information and you create that in the details. What are you having for lunch? What are you eating for dinner?
Yeah.
What time was breakfast? What are you having? Who are you eating it with? All these sort of things. You create the details to that. Then you get to reverse engineer that. We're going to take the details, the tactics that we've just created, the tactical understanding, because that's easier for all of us to understand, is tactics.
Right.
And we're going to take that up and create our vision,
Mm.
our 5-year vision.
Right.
And if I've got a vision, then I can create my goals. I can take my goals and I can break them down to objectives, and I can take my objectives and break them down to tasks and action steps. And what are you doing this afternoon that's going to move you closer to achieving your ideal day in 5 years?
I like that. That's actually really, really awesome. Very nice. So I guess for future endeavors, what's next for Otis McGregor and the Cam Otis Show? And are there any exciting projects or initiatives that you want to share with the audience?
Sure. What's next? We got a couple of things. So first off, what's happening right now, the Green Beret Leadership Program. The Green Beret Leadership Program is to develop leaders within your team. Stop just telling that dude, now you're in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Call me if you got questions. No, set them up for success. Remember what I said, one of your jobs as a leader is to train them to perform?
Right.
That's what the Green Beret Leadership Program is. It is taking what I've learned, how to be mindful, how to be a leader, how to solve problems, identify, break down, solve problems, and then how to build a team that has a culture and an attitude of success and improvement. That's what the Green Beret Leadership Program will do for you. The next thing that we're launching in the month of September, it's called the Next is Best program. And the Next is Best program is targeted to Division I athletes as they graduate from the university, so that they can shift and learn about who they are, take that identity and that drive they had as an athlete and turn it into their life going forward. That's so that awesome. They're not just going through the motions in life. They're they're learning how to take that drive, they base their identity and their drive that they've had their entire life, and turn it into success for the rest of their life post their sports career.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are the two big things. The Cam Otis Show, man, we continue to grind things out. We love our guests. We're having so much fun with our guests. We've got such a wide variety of entrepreneurs and business owners. And you know, I keep saying this, and one of these days I'm going to do it. We always wrap up our show with, what did you learn in the show? You know, each one of us. So look for that special. That's after 300 some odd shows is where we're at now. That little 5 or 10 minute clip, maybe a Netflix documentary, I don't know, of the Cam Otis Show. What'd you learn? So look for that to come out.
Nice. Anything else you want to share?
Hey, one other thing. So I publish a newsletter every week called Monday Moments. It's a Monday Moments newsletter, and it comes out Monday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern USA. And what it is it's a newsletter, but it is my lessons that I learned this week to help you launch yourself into more success next week. That's so awesome. I share some things I have learned. I share some thoughts and ideas, business ideas, somebody I met. But the meat of it is what I learned. What did I learn this week? And I share that out on Monday Moments. And it's been doing that now 4 years, every week, every Monday morning,
That's
6
awesome. So how do people sign up for that?
You go to tribe-purpose.com, tribe-purpose.com, click the Get Started button, and you'll see sign up for Monday Moments newsletter right there.
That's awesome. So tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Check out our Whiskey Words. Whiskey Words comes out on Wednesdays. A little bit of I was going to say editorial, but sometimes it's editorial, but it's more me giving you some other thoughts on life and what's going on in life with a whiskey and a cigar and outside.
Nice.
So check that out on LinkedIn. You follow me on LinkedIn. You can hit me up. You can get a hold of me on tribe-purpose.com. It's a great place to set up a time. You can even set up a call with me in that same Get Started button. So
that's awesome. Well, again, thank you for being on the show. Again, that was Otis McGregor. So thanks for listening to I can't even speak today. Thanks for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. Never miss an episode by subscribing here. So thank you again.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.